Hello everyone, I'm Lord Pog and welcome to Lord Pog Gaming. So I have a confession to make. I've sort of cheated with today's R&R. R&R is my shorthand for retro review, but you're more than welcome to rest and relax here as well. As stated before in my previous R&R on Beyond Oasis, which you should totally check out.
You're Daisy if you do.
I'm currently doing a series of R&Rs based on my personal 4 favorite Sega Genesis RPGs. As stated before, the Super Nintendo in the 90s had top-notch RPGs like Final Fantasy VI, or you could call it 3. Both answers are valid in their own right. Earthbound, A Link to the Past, and not to mention my personal favorite, Mario RPG. Which is why the RPG I'm going to talk about in this video is so special to me. And why it's a cheat. Because when you do a 4 video series, it's kind of customary to save your favorite and the one you think is best for last. But I just couldn't contain myself. I've been so blessed by y'all so much with the growth of my channel. All the support, suggestions, and criticisms. Mind you, I don't mind being criticized as long as it's constructive. I take criticism kind of like everybody should, right? I feel like it should help you reflect and inward think. As long as it's constructive. When it's deconstructive, you should let it solidify yourself and help you to build up. It's like breaking bones so they can become stronger, right? But I digress. Because of the growth of this channel, I just had to share what is probably my favorite RPG on the Sega ever. In fact, it is. There's no probably about it. I'm just so excited to get to gush over it with y'all, and I mean this with all my heart and soul when I say you honor me with your presence here. Okay? I'll stop being mushy now. So sorry. Today we're going to talk about the Shining Force. The legacy of great intention. But before we get into that, I gotta do the thing first. I know, and trust me, I always feel a little cringy when I'm doing it, so, bear with me. But if you like what I do here, and you're new to the channel or returning, you'd honor me by leaving a like on the video. And if I got you feeling a type of way, feel free to share and subscribe also. Plus, sign my guest book while you're here. My guest book is what I call my comment section, and ring my bell to be notified of when I release new content. I do have a variety of stuff, so even if you don't like this, maybe you'll find something you do like on my channel. I don't know. Give it a shot. I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Alright. I won't harp on it anymore.
Well, I don't like to harp on a subject,
I don't care. It comes with me, never have. That's why they call me gregarious.
Let's get started with this video. It is now my esteemed pleasure to share my love of Shining Force, the legacy of great intention. Shining Force, the legacy of great intention was first released in 1992 for the Sega Genesis. For those of you in the audience who are familiar with the Fire Emblem series, it might feel a bit more akin to that than anything else, save for the lead developer Hiroyuki Takahashi saying, "The tempo of that title was so bad that it wasn't something I even wanted to play." Damn! The Fire Emblem game he was talking about was Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, which was the first installment of the Fire Emblem series, first released in 1990. In fact, Shining Force is actually the second installment of its series, with the first being the successful Shining in the Darkness. However, Shining in the Darkness is a radically different styled game. While Shining Force is a tactical RPG, Shining in the Darkness is a first-person dungeon crawl. Think Eye of the Beholder, a Dungeons & Dragons game released in 1991 for the MS-DOS. Developers Climax Entertainment and subsequently Hiroyuki Takahashi, I'm sorry y'all, I am gonna butcher these names, wanted to make a game that was heavily inspired by Dragon Quest. a game that was published in 1986 by Enix before becoming Square Enix, and was known overseas as Dragon Warrior until 2005. Why the change? Don't know. We're not here for that. Takahashi said that he wanted to make a game like Dragon Quest, but make the battles fun, while also drawing inspiration from a game called Silver Ghost. And not to get off on a tangent,
here we go again.
but Silver Ghost was a game released in 1988 for the NEC PC 8801. And in my last video, I talked about composer Yuzo Koshiro, who used the PC 8801's dated sound chip to achieve some of his most iconic scores in gaming. And at the time, he did this with hardware that was considered dated. So Silver Ghost releasing in 1988 sort of puts that into perspective.
It really puts perspective on things, though, doesn't it?
Not too much. There's too much
yeah,
fucking perspective now.
Shining Force would be well received with Game Informer, yes, that Game Informer, giving it an 8 out of 10. Sega Pro, which was Sega's answer to Nintendo Power, gave it a 93%. A British gaming magazine called Mega gave it a 92%. An Australian magazine, Megazone, gave it a 90%. And a French gaming magazine called Megaforce gave the game a whopping 95%. So not too shabby if I do say so myself. And before I close out this section, let me say this. I first discovered this game on Sega Channel, and from the moment I first began playing it, I was instantly smitten. Although I've mentioned that what is probably far superior games in story and gameplay, it's still ranked up there in my top 2 favorite RPGs of all time, with the first being the aforementioned Mario RPG. So you have to forgive me if I, at times, sound a little giddy while talking about it, as there's tons of history with me and the Shining Force. The story of Shining Force, The Legacy of Great Intention, is that once upon a time, and I'm not kidding, as this game sort of makes you feel like you're playing out a fairy tale. So once upon a time, this evil being known as Dark Dragon was sealed away by the ancients. And what is often the case in stories like this is that eventually people grew complacent during times of peace, which allows the main villain Dark Soul, who also shows up in Shining in the Darkness connecting the two games, to corrupt the kingdom of Runefrost and begin to use its armies to try and unlock the Shining Path. Should Dark Soul succeed, he will unleash Dark Dragon once more and plunge the world into darkness. It's all pretty standard fare, as you the player controls the main character Max, but if you don't like that name, you have the option of renaming him at the start. So for me personally, I've never played as Max. I've always been called Pog, which, if I may go off the rails again,
I'm going off the rails on a crazy trail.
my name isn't based off of a Twitch phrase.
Oh, Jesus, God, no.
It actually comes from an old cap game in the 90s, where you would try to flip over these round caps to show the art on one side. If you do, you win that cap, and if you have the most caps in the end, you win. I was good at it, and it just stuck with me. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I one time built a clubhouse just to host these POG tournaments because we had hardcore rules. You win those caps, you win the POGs as they were called. You kept those POGs. Anyways, that's enough of my old man recollections.
Boo this man!
Along the way of trying to stop Dark Soul, you'll gather other adventurers to your cause. There are 29 heroes that you can recruit, with 11 of them being hidden. So if you're not paying attention, you may miss them completely, and there's no way to go back. We'll get more into this in the gameplay section,
Hold your horses.
but for now, just remember that not everybody is a guaranteed member, and 4 out of those 11 are my personal favorites. Max is a human being trained by Lord Varios, a centaur and knight for the kingdom of Guardiana, who watch over one of the gates of the ancients. Cain, a major villain of the game, and general of Runefast's army, comes in and wrecks Guardiana. After this, Nova, a hybrid of what looks like the astrological symbol for a Capricorn, a humanoid goat fish man, steps forward and offers to mentor Max in the ways of being a general, so that Max may become the leader of the Shining Force and stone cold stun Dark Soul once and for all. I'm currently fighting the urge to explain the story in its entirety to all of you beautiful golden wonders, but I would be doing y'all an injustice if I did. Currently, Shining Force is available on Steam for 99 cents, and I would be amiss not to beseech you to play it. I've done so many times over myself, and even to this day I keep coming back to it. It's dated, so the plot doesn't rival of that of even Final Fantasy's Mystic Quest.
How dare you!
Well, not in a sense anyways. See, the story can fall kind of flat at times. For instance, you go through this cave to get to the Orb of Light, which you're led to believe might be a MacGuffin. Yet when you get it and use it, there's a short dialogue, and that's about it. However, the game more than makes up for this by, instead of having long drawn-out segments, the story instead plays itself out using multiple NPCs. So even when you're feeling a little like the Orb of Light scenario was anticlimactic, the NPC Atrant explains how profound what just happened really is. So even though the way the story plays itself out at times seems a little dated, there's a type of charm in how Shining Force makes important characters feel important. Every one of the heroes who join your party has a personality to an extent, but the game gives you the option of getting to know them. Most importantly, as you battle alongside your chosen group, you'll by proxy develop a type of kinship with them. That makes it a story all your own. It makes it feel more personal and more catered to you and your choices and decisions. Max must find the Sword of Light and the Sword of Darkness, so he may merge them, creating the Chaos Breaker. And if that ain't just the beat-all for Sword's name, I don't know what is. Only then will you be able to stop Dark Soul and hold Dark Dragon at bay. While in town, Shining Force plays like your typical RPG. Max is guided around from an overhead view. You'll go to shops and buy weapons and potions, talk to NPCs, and look at every bookshelf. Seriously, look at every bookshelf. A lot of thought was put into them, and in the days of pre-Elder Scrolls, no two shelves have the same books. Or so I've found anyways. The overworld is a different story. Most of the time it's pretty linear. Instead of the vast open world space of, say, like Final Fantasy games, most of the open world time is dedicated to Shining Force's tactical battle system. Now, AI has come a long way, as in just 2 years Elder Scrolls Arena would be released. Shining Force, the Legacy of Great Intentions AI, would be limited by comparison. A better example of this, of smart enemy AI, would be Final Fantasy Tactics, for instance. Yet, for its time, Shining Force didn't feel limited, but more like battle chess on crack.
Peanut butter and crap.
The enemies will mostly follow a set pattern of movement, which at first makes it seem easy to predict how best to strategize when moving your forces. This is true mostly. But I would still advise to proceed with caution, since the AI is programmed to throw you for a loop. Much in the same way as chess, every one of your troops are expendable, and unlike Fire Emblem, they can be resurrected by a priest. Also, a priest is where you go to save your game, cure curses, wow, say that 5 times fast, cure curses, and promote your heroes. More on the priest later though. Anyway, each battle feels like chess. It's turn-based, and you'll move each character individually. Some are warriors, some are healers, some are mages, and then some are Gong.
Goat! The goat!
Gong is one of the characters that can be missed, so don't do that. He's a healer by nature, but I kid you not, if you put even an ounce of effort into leveling him up through combat, you'll have this awesome healer who will punch the enemy in the face like Bruce Lee. You can find Gong when you enter your first battle. When it's Max's turn to move him towards the exit of the battle, which is behind you. Nova will ask if you want to exit the fight. Say yes, then move to the little red house on the side of the place you're fighting at. You'll find Gong there.
What can I say except you're welcome?
The only way to truly lose a battle is if Max is killed, which is an automatic defeat. So much like chess, if you lose the king, you've lost the whole battle. So if you lose every single unit, but Max is still kicking, then you haven't lost. So I suggest having at least one angel wing in Max's items just in case. And or he can do a magic called egress, which will warp him back. But there you have it. Now, since the Chaos Breaker can only be wielded by Max, you'll have to find a perfect balance between putting him into battles, as you can only gain XP through combat, or magic use like magic attacks or healing. You can also gain XP by using an item on another ally, say a healing herb or something. But keeping him from just getting choke slammed.
Add a little exclamation point to this. No! Nice choke! Oh my God!
By an enemy who hits harder than his defense is a real tough thing to do in this game. One way of gauging the battlefield is by deselecting the character whose move it is by pressing the cancellation button. This will bring up a set of menu options and allow you to free roam over the battlefield. If you select the map, you'll then see how many enemies there are as indicated by red dots. If you hover, that's the word, if you hover over an enemy, you can select them and bring up their stats, which will let you gauge who's strong against who and such. This seems like I'm giving you an edge, but there's some surprises still to be had that I'm leaving out, because I want you to play this game. All I'm doing is giving y'all the basic controls that aren't exactly obvious from the start. And one last thing, if after gaining victory and you're not just instantly whisked away and are allowed to roam the battlefield, look for an unopened chest or unopened chests, as they will 9 times out of 10 have items and weapons better than anything you'll find in the shops. Interacting with items and people in cities is a pretty tedious ordeal, even for its time, but was pretty standard fare for many of the games at that time. A set of options will appear and you can either talk, search, use magic, or mess with your items. Now let's talk about items. Each character has only 4 slots to hold items, and since Max is the only one on free mode who can pick up items from chests, it's a good idea to always have at least 1 slot open, since if all 4 slots are full, he won't take items from said chests. It's annoying, I know, but you can always go into your items and freely transfer items from one character to another to better free up space. Unless you're in battle. Then to transfer an item from one character to another, they must be adjacent. One neat thing, however, is to equip an item in battle. That is a free action, and will not count against your movement or attacks. Only 12 heroes can go into a fight at one time.
You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring.
With Max counting as the 12th. So evenly leveling everyone up can be a challenge too, but I find it best to just find a rhythm and stick with it. You'll probably find a few heroes from the beginning, cough cough, gong, that you'll be pretty invested in, while either discovering others or gaining others through the story that you'll want to swap in. Shining Force has so much replayability from that one aspect alone, since there's a lot of different combinations and squads you can put together and play through to see what kind of squads there are. To save, as said before, you'll need to go to the priest. He'll save your game, resurrect any fallen heroes, plus there's remove curse, which the only curse I ever came upon he couldn't remove. And then there's promotion. Those who are familiar with 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons or 3.5 will understand this as a prestige class. See, once a character reaches a certain level in the game, the priest can promote them to a new class, which to my understanding makes them stronger. Okay, so I'm gonna go off on something here.
Freaking idiot!
But I've never actually played a run-through without promoting my characters. It feels like it's optional not to do so, but if I'm being honest, the first time I played Shining Force, promotion seemed like such a neat little thing that I just have never thought to not do it. Which is funny because in a way it also feels like a soft reset of the character, while somehow buffing them at the same time. If anyone that's played this before has gone without promoting, well, let me know when you sign my guest book. I'd be fascinated to actually know how that works. If you haven't figured out by now, I love this game. From the animations to the story and gameplay, even the score is amazing. I mean, Sega has always had some bangers, but the first time I heard that intro, I felt goosebumps. Even now it transports me to my childhood. The intro music, the little Simone reading the fairy tale and asking for my help. It just felt so magical. So before I close this section out, as I still have one final section I'd like to talk about. I know, but stick with me as I feel it's what really makes this game so special. Before we get into that though, let me talk about one particular enemy who will be a nasty thorn in your side. Nasty thorn. The witch Michaela, out of all the bosses you're going to fight, she's the one who may cause you to rage quit the most, and or curse the developers for being born. Was that too much? Well, anyways, she sucks. My advice is this: don't wait to search the chests on the battle when you fight her. Make sure Max is a high enough level so he can tank some damage. Make sure you have not used any of your shower cures. What am I even saying? Make sure you haven't used any of your shower cures, and make sure he eats all the breads of life that you find. And have at least some flying characters who can flank, since she'll be unflankable otherwise. If it sounds like I'm being vague, I'm not. There's really no other way to handle this. Michaela has unlimited magic and heals every turn. Not her turn, mind you, but every turn. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. And she's got a magic attack that can and will hit a filthy amount of your characters at once. It's a hard fight, so find the sword in the chest, get it to max, and pray you can survive attacking her. Good luck. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Elliot. He's on the enemy's side, but you'll just have to play the game to see why I think so much of him. You may have noticed that a few times I've referred to this game by its full name, Shining Force: The Legacy of Great Intention. There's a specific reason for that, as over time whenever I've heard this game spoken of, the Legacy of Great Intention is often left out, with most people only calling it The Shining Force. And to be fair, calling it Shining Force, the Legacy of Great Intention is a mouthful. As a kid, I always just called it the Shining Force, since I'm not even sure that the full name had registered in my brain yet. As a child, I was a bit rough and tumble, kind of a knucklehead, as they say. Any and all perceived intelligence I may have now is a result of years of practice. It wouldn't be until I reached adulthood that the name The Legacy of Great Intention would register inside my thick skull, and even more so until doing this review. Now I wonder just what the heck is the Great Intention that they are even speaking of. In fact, had I not decided to ponder this, I probably would have gotten this video out sooner, and it might be a whole lot shorter. Yet I think I've come to a conclusion, maybe not the right one, but as someone who's played this over a dozen times, it's the right conclusion for me, and here I am finally releasing the video.
Look, I made you some content. Diving into your favorite open wide.
The definition of intention reads, a thing intended, an aim, or a plan. It also has a medical definition saying, the healing process of a wound. The definition of something intended is, nah, I'm joking. We have more than what we need with just the first two.
Got him!
I'm just a troll sometimes. Now back on track. So now that we understand what intention means, how does it apply to the game and its overarching story? Well, the easiest answer would be the Shining Force's intention is to stop Dark Soul from resurrecting Dark Dragon. But again, I feel it runs deeper than that. For instance, I made this video with the intention of gaining subscribers. That doesn't mean I will, but seriously.
Do it.
Regardless, my reason for the video runs deeper than that, than just gaining subscribers, I mean. In the end, I wanted to share my love for Shining Force, the Legacy of Great Intention, with the world, or at least my small corner of it here on YouTube, and share it with y'all who have taken time out of your schedules to be here with me, and I can never repay you enough for it. Keeping that in mind, just because I said what the Shining Force's intentions are doesn't mean that they'll succeed. That's not really foreshadowing, it's just that you'd really have to play the game to see what I mean. Then maybe come back and hear this section one more time, since it's too easy to say that the ultimate intention is to stop Dark Dragon's resurrection. And since Hiroyuki Takahashi made it clear that he didn't just want to make a clone of Fire Emblem, instead he wanted to make a game that could stand on its own 2 feet. I find it hard that at the end of the day, even the name, like the Legacy of Great Intention, wasn't something he put some thought into. Every character Max, and I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call him Pog, I really do, and I know that's gotta be getting old. I just really wanted to call him Pog this whole time, but for the sake of consistency and the way the game was written, I thought, it would ease my burden if I did call him Pog, but it's just getting hard to call him Max, but I'll continue to call him Max, but you can understand what I'm saying here, right?
Okay, I stopped listening like halfway through that.
Every character Max meets who joins him on his quest has their own reason for doing so, whether it's because they were instructed to, or they're doing it for revenge, or have been inspired to take up the fight in some way. Every character has some kind of intended purpose for themselves, and what they want the ultimate outcome to be, which at the end of the day is keeping Dark Soul from unleashing Dark Dragon upon the world, and healing some of the wounds that Dark Soul has left in his wake, for he screws over a lot of people in this game. But no matter their reason, all roads will lead to Rome, as they say. All except Max, that is. See, Max is a human being trained by the leader of the Knights of Guardiana, Lord Varios, who, as stated before, is a centaur. Every centaur Max meets and joins him is a knight. From Ken to Vankar, they are all knights. In fact, every centaur NPC in the game is a knight. Even the Knights of Runefaust are centaurs, making it relevant that Varios has chosen Max as his pupil instead of another centaur, who I might add noticed this. There's definitely a resentment that the centaurs show Max at the beginning of the game, seeing as it a waste of Lord Varios' time to train Max, yet Varios never regrets his decision, going as far as to say Max is the chosen one without actually just saying that out loud. Max's story is naturally going to be the most fleshed out, and as we the players get to experience every victory, every defeat, and suffer every loss as Max does, it goes without saying that to continue on, I would ruin the game entirely. Things are going to happen to Max along the way that changes his intention from everyone else's. From the start, his intention is to prove himself. Then it's to avenge allies he will lose along the way. Soon his intent is to become worthy of the Shining Force, not only avenging those allies' lost, but setting right what Dark Soul has undone and heal the wounds of the land. Yes, his intention all the while will still align with stopping Dark Soul and keeping Dark Dragon at bay. But it's his legacy of great intention we witness as this fairy tale progresses, for in the end his intention will take it just one step further, which is why it pains me to stop here. Since in order for me to truly relate what it is that I mean, I will have to tell you how the whole game plays out. And it's my ardent wish that you, dear viewer, go and play this simple tale. Now, while it may come across as simple, it's amazingly well thought out and lovingly crafted. And if, when you do, come back here and tell me if you can see what Max, Hog, or whomever you choose to be, come and tell me what you saw. Sit a spell with me, won't you? Tell me about the heroes you chose to fight alongside, and who your favorites were. What squads you created and the different combinations you had. What were some of your strategies? And how did some of these events make you feel? Please, I'd love to hear about your legacy of great intention. I want to thank you for sticking around this long if you have. This video ran longer than I expected, but like I said, Shining Force The Legacy of Great Intention is a game near and dear to my heart, and I hope that I was able to properly relate it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Sign my guest book, ring my bell, and most of all, I want y'all to know that although we have never met each other, we have different beliefs, we may have different beliefs, opinions, philosophies in life, and etc. When we're here together, gathered round because of our mutual love for games and gaming in general, that is something we share beyond race, gender, politics, and all those other superficial things that society seems to try and yoke us with. We are equal here, because this is something we can all share. And from my heart and soul, I want you to know I love you. Thank you so much for helping this guy, who doesn't feel like he's really good at much most of the time, feel like he's good at this. Or at least getting better. Y'all come back now. Stay golden.